It was slightly better in April, while May and June were a little worse compared to the 2023 values. And so this map shows where exactly those travel time reliability index is kind of below that threshold. So you can kind of see on I-8094 between US 41 and Kennedy Ave is kind of a hot spot there. Another performance measure for travel time reliability is looking at the non-interstate roadways, which include mainly your US highways or any larger state routes. So you can see again from quarter one to quarter two, quarter one performance was a little better, but however, our region tends to do a lot better for this state metric than for the interstate reliability. And again, you can kind of see the map. So there's only a few kind of areas where you can see it dips in that reliability index. So travel time reliability is also partitioned out to just look at trucks and freight transportation. So again, we kind of see from quarter one to quarter two a little bit of drop in that index. For this index, the larger numbers indicate worse performance, while the smaller numbers indicate better performance. So here you can see on the map kind of where truck transportation reliability tends to dip. You can kind of see the 8094 corridor from the state line to 65, as well as a little bit past on 80, the 8094 split. Some other areas are the toll road just past the state line, as well as 65, I believe that's south of 2. So congestion. The main metric that is used to monitor congestion is the peak hour excessive delay per capita. And this metric is only mandated to be reported for urban areas that have a population of 200,000 or greater. So this would only need to be reported for the Chicago urban area and not the Michigan City-LaPorte urban area. So as you can see, this is kind of a cumulative target. So right now we're at 5.5, and I believe I had seen the metric updated for June a few days ago, and I think we're at 7.6 hours, which is a little under half of that 15.6 hour target that the state has produced. So here you can see some of the areas that dip below that peak hour excessive delay per capita. Although the urban area itself is doing well, there are definitely some areas in our region that are trouble spots. Another metric for congestion is also looking at the percentage of non-single occupancy vehicle travel. So this data was taken from the American Community Survey's 2022 5-year estimate. And so overall, mode of vehicle travel is pretty consistent across the 3 counties. Approximately 80% of all travel occurs by single vehicle, single occupancy. However, the percentage of public transit was highest in Lake County, and the percentage of carpooling was highest in LaPorte County. Although the percentage of other mode was highest in Porter County, and that includes like active transportation, so like walking or biking or ride-hailing services such as a taxi or Uber. And with that, if anyone has any questions?
Any questions for Grace? Will this report be on the website?
It can. Absolutely. Thank you.
Seeing no questions for Grace, we'll go on. Since the gang's all here, I'd like to call for self-introductions. I'm Kevin Breitsky, chair of the committee. This is Tom Vanderwood, next meeting.
Sorry, yeah, Tom Vanderwood, Director of Transportation. Tim Hammond.
Jake Porter County.
Okay, Nelson, Northwest Indiana Forum.
Tiana Steiger, Indiana.
Beth Streeter, South Springfield.
George Topol, Township Trustee, Porter County.
Julie Ritzler for Lisa Strader, Utah.
Max Raylander, City of Valparaiso.
Mark Waddell, Town of Chesterton.
Candace Jacqueline Percy. Melody Candace and Deb.
Terry Martin, Terry Gill.
Scott Hurley, First Group Engineering.
Evan Lavalette, First Group Engineering.
Tom Wolfond, Crystal Berger,
Jake Dammerow, Public Government and Cypher.
Alex Lester, Public Government Cipher.
Stephen Hughes, NERC.
Grace Banger, University.
Charles Bradsky, NERC.
Eric Wolverton, American Structure Point.
Thank you all for coming this morning. We'll go right into planning 3.2, draft CMQ, second performance period, midpoint performance plan. Mr. Vanderwood. This is also an informational session.
Okay, so continuing the theme of NERC's performance-based planning activities, Grace presented on some of the federally mandated performance measures that we track. I'll note that historically that presentation has been given to our Surface Transportation Committee, but because we've got a new committee structure that doesn't include that group anymore, those presentations will be given to this committee on a quarterly basis. So as Grace mentioned, there are a number of performance measures that we have to kind of track, and the reason we do that is to determine whether or not our investments that we're making here are moving us towards agreed upon targets for air quality, safety, congestion, and as an MPO that represents an urban area that exceeds 200,000 in population, we're also required to develop a CMAQ, it's Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality performance plan. And what this is it's a document that establishes our targets. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, bear with me. Sorry, the slides are advancing on the computer, but not on the screen. Does anyone know what that is? I'm sorry.
You're so talented.
This happened to me last time. Floor, do you by any chance know why this is happening? I don't not to put you on the spot, but let me try something here. I'll just continue to press the same buttons over and over and maybe something will change. Try this. It's on there. There we go. I'm not sure what exactly I did. Now it's not on the screen, but it's up there. Okay, so as I said, as background, NERC, because we are an MPO for an urban area that exceeds 200,000 population, which is that Chicago, Illinois, Indiana urban area, and we've talked about that a lot at the Transportation Committee, Technical Planning Committee lately, we have to essentially come up with a plan that says, these are our targets for air quality and congestion in our region. These are the projects that we're investing in with our CMAQ funding. These are our expected benefits. So as you can see, we are part of that Chicago urban area. Because of that, we do prepare targets in coordination with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, which is the MPO on the Illinois side, as well as with the Indiana Department of Transportation and the Illinois Department of Transportation. So we all have to agree on what our targets are for these performance measures, which are congestion related, as well as air quality related. So congestion mitigation and air quality is the funding program. So what those performance measures are some of which we already looked at in the quarterly update, but it's the peak hours of excessive delay per capita. So what that means is there's a formula that they use that looks at how much delay we're experiencing on the interstate network, and then that's divided out by the number of people within our region, and they come up with that index. And it's a congestion measure. The percent of non-single occupancy vehicle travel, so that is a metric which tracks how many people are using non-single occupancy passenger cars. So they're riding public transit, walking, using rideshare, etc. And then there are air quality metrics that we're tracking as well, which is the 24-hour PM10, that's particulate matter. And it's key, we're looking not at the overall levels, but at the benefits for these categories. So we're looking at, we have a target for how much benefit we want to see. And then we have the ozone precursors. So every 4 years, NERC adopts a plan and establishes new targets for those measures. And then every 2 years, we have to file a plan update or performance report. And the reason why I've called that a plan update / performance report is because every 2 years you have the opportunity to determine whether or not you want to change your targets. The Federal Highway Administration mandates this, but they don't have any say as to what our targets are. So we adopt congestion targets at the urban area level. So we work with CMAP, as I mentioned, INDOT and IDOT. And then for the air quality targets, we essentially have adopted the state targets for the past 2 plan cycles. So as I said, our first plan was adopted in 2018, and then a new plan was adopted in 2022, which included new targets. So we're at this point, we're at the midpoint in that 2022 plan. So our targets for congestion are our 2-year target for peak hour of excessive delay per capita, or if you're in the business, you can call it PHEAD, would be in 2 years, we want to see no more than 15.6, and then a 4-year target of no more than 15.9. So our actual performance over that 2-year period is 11.6 hours. So we're doing well. We're on track to meet our targets. Percent of non-single occupancy vehicle travel, non-SLOV. This is something where we want to meet or exceed our target. We don't want to come in under our target. So for 2 years, it was 32.4%. In 4 years, we want to see 32.7%. And our actual performance over this 2-year period is 36.3%. So you might think that seems a little odd. But we have to also keep in mind that that's for the entire Chicago urban area. So that includes the entire Chicago transit system as well. I will note in the report that was sent out as part of the agenda packet, this 4-year target is incorrectly shown as 32.6%. That was just essentially a scrivener's error that occurred in our initial adoption of our targets. So that'll be corrected in the final report that's submitted to INDOT. And then as far as our targets for air quality, for PM10, our 2-year target was 0.02, 4-year target 0.03. I won't go through all these, but you can see, so these are very large targets, and these are the Indiana statewide targets. Our actual performance during this period was 0.0 for all. And while that does seem like we're not doing anything, the truth is that the way that our reporting works is that projects are submitted, and then the air quality benefit is counted only at the first federal obligation. So although we have projects that are moving through our system that are being constructed and that are funded, none of those initial project obligations occurred in this midpoint performance period. So they didn't occur during 2022 or 2023, so it doesn't count. But it's kind of neither here nor there, because we get basically enfolded into the overall Indiana performance plan. And so it's a combination of the work that we're doing here along with all of the other both state and metropolitan transportation programs that are happening that contribute to meeting our targets. So there's a missing A right there. So that's really it. It's an update. We'll be submitting this report by October 1st. And then in 2 years, we'll be preparing new targets and submitting a new 4-year plan. It's likely that we would adjust the targets at that time. But generally speaking, we are on track to meet our congestion targets and our air quality targets as well. So I'll take any questions.
Okay. I was on the CMAC website and I saw that the region had some sort of change in status in their non-attainment classification as of last August. Is that something that just maybe outdated information? It's still a non-attainment area, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they are adjusting some of the targets, or adjusting some of the thresholds.
Okay.
So we don't know yet where we are on that. But it won't, they're not gonna make them less stringent. The targets always, are more aggressive, so.
And how does the non-attainment area work with all of our little micro UCAs? Are all of us
Yeah, so
lumped in together?
attainment happens at a county level, so it happens irrespective of the urban area.
Any other questions? Okay.
Just a statement, given the multiple regulations at the federal level on air quality issues, IDEM will most likely be looking to revise our state implementation plan, or SIP, by 2026.
Okay.
And I don't know how closely NDOT works with IDEM in setting these state targets. It might be advantageous to kind of follow up and see. We want to certainly be offering something that can be of help to our region from a new SIP planning process.
That's a point well taken. As I said, in the next 2 years, we'll have to establish new targets. So, yeah, we will be working closely with NDOT, and I would imagine we're working with IDEM as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next, we'll have Stephen Hughes presenting on Resolution 2411, going to be in action for recommendation to the Commission after Stephen's presentation on the nonprofit transportation feasibility study. Mr. Hughes.
All right, good morning. In June, we discussed the nonprofit transportation feasibility study, so I'm not going to do a full presentation on it. I'm just going to let you know that we put that out for a 21-day public notice. We did receive one question about why this only looked at Lake and Porter counties, and we discussed that a little bit before. One main reason is that our steering committee consisted of the community foundations in Lake and Porter counties, as well as Goodwill, and also the proximity of people and services in that area. We did actually contact Paladin, that does a lot in LaPorte County, and the pilot program is meant to be kind of a demonstration to see if that can be expanded. So in time, if this is a successful project, that could go on to include LaPorte County. And so we did respond to that question with that information. The public comment period is still open through the end of business today, so we don't have a final report on that, but so far we've only received the one comment on it. Beyond that, you do have in your packet the memo and the resolution. So we are asking to have a favorable recommendation to adopt this. That would go to the executive board or full commission, so that that can be an official study that we've done that would be supported and give a little bit more weight to it than it just being something that took place and is distributed. Then it has the support of the commission. So if you have any questions on that, I'm happy to address those, but I think this is something that we discussed in June and hopefully is on everybody's radar. So
I just have a comment.
Please.
I've been part of Lake County Community Services for about 24 years, and I've watched the ebb and flow of everything that's been happening. But you know, it seems like the core problem that we have right now is getting gas-powered vehicles that are appropriate for our use. Obviously, electric isn't going to work because we work with people all the way down to the Kankakee River.
Right.
But we don't have enough vehicles that we can depend on. You know, we've had accidents, whatever, but we need to have better vehicles that we can depend on all the time, and making sure that NERC can afford to do that and keep us informed all the time about what's going on, because our numbers are growing.
Yes.
You know, as our population ages, more and more people are being dependent on those vehicles to get back and forth to doctors and hospitals and so forth. So I just want to put a word in for Lake County Community Services. Thank the Lord that we have such a great leader. Our director is the best, and Blossom has done an outstanding job. But I know the one thing that kind of holds us back is the fact that we don't have access to enough vehicles.
yeah, and that's a good point for sort of the public transit side of what we do, and we're all acutely aware of that. And particularly with the demand response type of service, it's you might have one run that takes 45 minutes pretty easily. So that's a good point. And with the nonprofits, they run into the same thing. So this is an idea of pooling resources to where oh gosh, our driver didn't show up today.
Exactly.
Can we get in touch with this other group to see if they can make that run. So, not necessarily the right answer for public transit, but for nonprofits working together to accomplish their goals. That's the purpose of this study. So, I think that we had really good participation from those groups, and they were eager to see what that would look like if they could make it work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I thank you for doing that, because it's just like the issues are just growing and growing and growing. We're always trying to do our best to help people, and everybody wonders. They see the buses going, they have no idea what that is. So I think that probably informing the public what Lake County Community Services, or all of them, are about. A little bit of rebranding or advertising. I know Lake County did, and we rebranded a couple of years ago, and it's excellent because people don't know what those buses are doing.
And the purpose of this resolution is for coordination and cooperation of the not-for-profits, because not really sufficiently addressed those resources. So the better cooperation we have, the better service we will have for our communities. So that's resolution 2411. Are there any more questions? Mr. Ross?
You said you had one public comment?
Yes.
I'm curious if you know what it is, because we are basically serving the public comment.
Right. It was a question, and it was, why was this only in Lake and
Oh, okay.
Lake and Porter counties, yeah. And so we did respond with those 4 factors that I described earlier.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, can I have a motion to make a recommendation, a positive recommendation?
Move to recommend. Second.
Mr. Tobel made the motion, Mr. Nutt second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? So,
Thank you.
we'll go on to programming, Mr. Bradsky. This is the 2024 Notice of Funding Availability, also known as NOFA, call for projects. This is information.
Good morning, everybody. As you can see on the very last page, the memorandum, the NOFA is coming out hopefully today. We've got everything mostly, I think it's just making sure the links work and everything like that. Of course, after we release it, we'll find out all those bugs immediately. We are asking that if any community does have a possible project they would like to see or like to put forward, to reach out to me and we can go over it. We'll come in the office. We'll bring whatever program your project, your whatever program that your proposed project is to be under. We'll bring in the staff person that can help, and we can talk about the questions that you might have about that. We really want the best projects to go forward, and that's always the case. We always want the best projects to go forward. As you can see, for 26 to 30 in Maven, we're talking about 29 and 30. We have 108 million that we have for infrastructure and transit. 108 million for infrastructure and transit. So that's something to keep in mind. We don't have a whole lot this year. Mainly looking towards HSIP projects and CMAC projects. Maybe some CRP and some Protect. There's not a whole lot of STPG. We've had the continual inflation coming up and rolling projects in and stuff like that. So we're gonna have to roll projects over, and so there's gonna be some spillover into 29 or to 30. So we'll see how that goes. But if you have any questions, please give me a call and we can meet. Okay.
Questions for Charles? Yeah.
Do we have a direction on transit funding, with the new MSA boundaries?
That is more of a Stephen question to put him on the spot there. That is not easily as fungible as the infrastructure projects are, because that goes through the FTA. Whereas the infrastructure comes from the FHWA, and we are able to combine those to make sure that the new Valparaiso Shorewood Forest UCA can continue going forward. I'm not entirely sure how those funds work for that. I do know that one of the big issues we're trying to get ironed out is making sure that everybody fully reports to their NTD, National Transit Database, correctly. I think that might have some effect in there. Because as you know, the only transit operator in the Valpo UZA that operates in the Valpo UZA would be Valpo Transit.
No, PCACS operates in it, and
Valpo Transit, not the demand response part of it, but I'm saying they're the only ones that operate within the Valparaiso UCA because you have fixed route service. PCACS and Chicago Connect, Chicago Dash, and South Shore Connect all operate in and out of both of them. So I think that's one thing that Stephen is working on, and the rest of the NERC staff, Talea and Ann, are working on. So don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry.
I think you need to connect with Stephen. So, if you would, Stephen.
The information that we've received so far is just the funding tables. I'm sure you've seen those, and it's a much smaller number than what any of us would like it to be. However, like Charles said, those rides that have destinations in anywhere other than in the Valpo Shorewood Forest UZA may be supposed to be counted to other, either the Chicago UCA or non-UCA areas, and it's hard to get straight answers from FDA on some of these things. So we're still
They're not
waiting.
gonna give us answers. We're just gonna have to decide something and then see what they say about it. I think.
Max?
Yeah, so for the infrastructure projects, is that 180 million going to be divided at 3 ways as far as, Valpo UCA, LaPorte County UCA, and the balance?
That 180 million is for transit and infrastructure. And that is for all 3 UCAs.
Do we know how much each UCA receives?
We know how much we received this year, which was a decrease. NDOT and their gracious, benevolent hands have decreased the amount of funds we've received this year. And I don't know going forward if that's going to continue. Normally we receive a slight increase, but this year we received a slight to a not so slight decrease.
So, as it relates to highway funding, there's a distinction between the LaPorte, Michigan City urban area, and so that funding is generally historically been dealt with separately. At the last commission meeting, they just approved a resolution, or adopted a resolution to treat the Valpo funding and the Chicago funding as one single pot of funds. So while we do know where each dollar came from, we're not treating them separately. So that was a discussion. I don't recall if you were at the last TPC meeting, but that was a discussion that we had at the last meeting. So that's been settled. So yeah.
Okay, good, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Charles. I'd also like the record to show that Commissioner or Councilman Kenny Vasquez is in attendance, and Chris Murphy from Structure Point.
Morning,
Do we have any topical committee reports this morning? Staff, do we have any topical committee? If not, reports from planning partners, Strike Clean Indiana. Don't see him here today.
We have the golf tournament today.
Oh, it will be a little bit shorter than today. Other business and staff announcements. We have some staff announcements. Mr. Bailey.
I just have one announcement. For the last 2024 call for projects for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program, which is administered by the Federal Highway Administration. NERC did apply for funding through that program in partnership with the counties of all three counties, Lake Forest and LaPorte. So we applied for a grant to do a regional safety action plan, and I know that there are communities represented here who have their own funding or may have applied for funding for a municipal, for lack of a better term, safety action plan. So provided that we receive that funding, which we've applied for $400,000 to be matched by $100,000 of local funding, we would be completing a regional safety action plan, and we'd be working with each one of the municipalities that already is working on their own plan or is funded to work on their own plan. So we coordinate that. We were looking at a plan that would include like kind of two distinct elements: an urban element, which would focus on sort of unique safety issues in the urban areas, and then a rural element. So we kind of pay special attention to some of the more rural corridors, and that was something that we kind of worked out with the county governments, which have an interest in those areas, given that that's where their jurisdiction is for highways. So that was, we submitted that at the end of August. We're fairly confident that we'll get funding for that. And yeah, so that plan would be coming back to this body at some point in the future to, get updates and get input.
Did we have any of our communities apply for safety action?
I have that.
Yeah.
Valpo?
Yeah, we did.
Hammond? Anybody else? I would have said Dyer.
You know what you're saying, yeah. I like to create what I have to say by learning by telling you something I have learned throughout my lifetime. It's always planned for 100 years. So with that, if you kind of imagine Route 30 going through Dyer, major highway, and to the south of it, we have the following, right in a row. We have Keeler Middle School, we have CSX, which, we all know that it's gonna morph into an extension of the Monon corridor eventually. And then we have 2 gas stations, and then we have a fireworks place. Well, you know what? I mean, I've had various people in my background that tells me, that's like a real warning here. There's something really wrong here. What Dyer would like to see is some kind of a bridge, making sure that pedestrians, bicyclists can get safely from our north end of town all the way through to the south end of town, which could carry them into Illinois safely. And I know that, the pedestrian or the bicycle path took us into Fort Heights. That's not gonna work. But if we can get people across Route 30 through all those obstacles and get them safely to the other side so that we can figure out a path to the south and get them into Illinois, and that's a bicycle thing. That's great. We're all for that. But we have to figure out a bridge system to get them over there safely. Having been a teacher at Keeler Middle School for 40 years, I can tell you, middle school kids are unique, and they like to run, especially across Route 30. We would like to have a safe way for them to get across Route 30 if they want to take their bikes, whatever they want to do. So there's a lot of important points here, but I want to kind of get our foot in the door and say, we need to take a look at the long-range plan for 100 years. We look at Hammond, they have bridge systems, and we like to figure out a bridge system across those obstacles.
If I could echo that for Union Township, and I'm sure a lot of other communities for safe passage.
Maryville, for example, as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah. We can work together.
I would suggest you talk to Dean. He seems to have a real handle on this. Sorry, Dean. But
Have a mayor that loves to bicycle and, and has a motivation to create business and safe crossings.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? We have upcoming NERC meetings.
Sorry, I have a comment
Oh,
on that.
yes,
As far as our local safety action plan, we did receive the funding of the May Hall that we went after.
Yeah, I believe I read a handful of communities in the region were funded through that last round. So at this point, yeah, we probably have about 10 municipalities that have received funding.
we had a safety action plan completed, but we also submitted for application. I haven't heard anything yet.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else? The emergency commission meeting's coming up, finance and personnel, on September 19th at 8 a.m. The full commission will be meeting September 19th. Transportation and Resource Oversight Committee, TROC, for Lake and Porter County will be September 24th at 9 a.m. Then LaPorte will have its TROC meeting at 1 o'clock on September 24th. The next Technical Planning Committee meeting is scheduled for October 1st at 10 a.m. in these offices. Anything else for the good?
I just want to make one note that the financial personnel meeting is not going to take place on September 19th.
Oh, thank you.
They are going under that new structure for leadership. It will be in October. I'm not exactly sure the date, but a message will go out of same date.
So it sounds like finance and personnel will not be meeting right before the next meeting.
That's correct.
Okay.
It'll have its own date.
It's not how it's written here.
Thank you.
Never mind. Strike it on your agenda.
If I can, sure. The committee structure, as we all know, is changing, so some of this is a bit of a dynamic situation, so I would just pay attention to your emails. You'll be receiving notifications that may look different from what you may have already put on your calendar, so just try to keep informed, and we'll do our best to, make sure that we let everybody know well in advance of when we think these meetings are gonna occur, because
Any idea when that target might be, we'll find out.
for finance and personnel,
Say again?
for the,
No, for everything in general, all the finance and personnel, everything in general.
so I think that throughout the end of this year, it's gonna be a little bit touch and go, but by the time we get into 2025, we'll have it all, we should have a consistent calendar through all of 2025.
We'll have more of a discussion on this next week, so.
Okay.
Thank you. Up to your Tom, our current chairman is not there. Anything else for the good?
I see American Structure Point is here, maybe a brief update on, Willow Creek project in particular.
That's our Chris.
Sure. We currently have the draft environmental document submitted to NDOT Federal Highway. They have come back with some comments that we are going through right now in preparation of submitting a revised draft environmental document for NDOT and Federal Highway approval, which we expect will happen later this month. Once we secure that approval, we'll be able to organize a public hearing. Right now, tentatively, we're thinking the public hearing would be in the middle of November, before the holidays. If we can't get the draft environmental document approved in time, the Porter County Commissioners would prefer that instead of having a public hearing between the holidays, that we would schedule a public hearing for right after the first of the year. That's my update.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is also you getting approval with the environmental.
The draft environmental redesign.
It's still touchable.
Yeah, but the comments have not been extraordinary. So our staff's working through them with Federal Highway and NDOT to get that accomplished, and expectation is we should have that shortly.
Is there anything, we can talk afterwards, but so I can share with my constituents, because it's a big topic in our area.
Sure, I think you can share that the public hearing is coming up.
Okay, I told them, in late summer.
Yeah.
Well, you're just a little bit off, and it's not your fault.
Yeah, I told them
they're forcing it
could change.
as close as we can get. prior to the holidays.
Yeah, but I just try to stay as close as we can to keeping people informed.
Anything else?
Thank you. You all.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All.
Steve?
Aye.
And Kay? Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Thank you.
Where do we go?
Yes. That's our office. Oh,